Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. And this morning, I've got Isaiah with Y2Believe and our favorite give back guest.
Why, thank you.
The distinguished David Lundquist.
Wow.
Pastor David Lundquist.
Wow.
Good
Thanks.
morning.
I got a distinguished this morning. Thank you.
It's the wings.
It's the wings.
They're starting to come through.
I know. It's
A little bit of gray.
I remember when the girls were like, "Dad, you got gray hair." I'm like, "Yeah, well, you know, that's what happens when you're 62."
You know what? Amy had a friend come over the other day from Westgate.
No.
And just in case they're watching, I won't say any names, but they'll know. But she hadn't seen this friend in, 10 or 12 years. And I mean, she was like 75% gray. And when I went in the house and saw her, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of gray hair. Mm-hmm. But it's
Can
not
happen
bad.
fast.
Like it looked nice.
Hey, gray
It's done the right way.
It's wisdom.
But
My
it's
daughter
right.
actually went to the hair salon and put gray in her hair because apparently that's kind of the thing to do now. So or it was for a while.
Which daughter was this?
That was Mariah.
Mariah.
Put silver in her hair. Yeah. Anyway.
Did you guys name her after Mariah Carey?
No, M-O-R-I, Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah. Okay.
Mount Moriah, that's where, that's where Abraham sacrificed Isaac, or was going to on the Mount Moriah. That's where
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Oh, that's right. Isaiah. Yes, I knew Isaiah. I got it written down. Oh, I got so
I'm
excited.
not being sacrificed today.
No.
I'm big on the Messiah. I prophesy that he's to come.
All right. The Messiah is to come. The Messiah is to come. Yeah. So Y2Believe, that's the organization that you're a part of.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, let me share a couple of statistics.
Sure.
And
I'd love to hear the
then
statistics.
I can tell you the mission. So currently, the statistics say that 70 to 75% of youth who claim to be Christian leave the Christian faith coming out of high school. They graduate high school, 70 to 75% leave the Christian faith. Of those 75%, only 1/3 ever come back. So out of high school, we're at an attrition rate of 50% of kids leaving Christianity and never returning. There's been a few recent statistics, actually, and I'll just read a few here. This is from the CDC does a 10-year kind of rolling survey of youth risk behavior. And this just came out this last year. 10% of high school students have made an attempt on their life. 10%. Now, this is the most ever recorded. Since we've been taking these statistics, it's the most ever recorded, that 10% have already attempted to take their lives. 20% have a detailed plan on how they're going to kill themselves, and 40% have persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness.
Wow.
And what time period is this?
So this is all in high school.
I mean, from like 2000, 2010.
Yeah, so this is within the last 5 years. All these statistics are within the last 5 years. So what we have is a pretty significant problem happening in our youth. And so Y2Believe's mission and goal is to change those statistics and change a generation for the sake of the kingdom. That's kind of our broad goal. So what we do is we go into the high schools and middle schools and engage these kids with their biggest questions and show them that the best answers and the best explanations are found in Christianity and in the person of Jesus.
Wow. I'm going to let you ask the hard questions since it's your son-in-law, and that's always
cat's out of the bag.
that's always a fun thing to play with on the phone. On the phone, on the call, on the podcast. This is what we're doing. because we've been doing a lot of podcasts today. Man, that's interesting. For me, the thought comes down to you're in the millennial generation. Yep. 30.
Tail end, 28.
28.
I'm the last of the millennials.
Scott's 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two 28-year-olds.
You got two 28-year-olds. That's nice. I remember when I was 28 years old, I was dashing and daring. A drink to be sharing. No, I'm just kidding. I was having a good time. But how much of this, I wonder, just what comes to my mind is how much of this, 75% leave, a third come back, 10% have tried to commit suicide, 20% have a detailed plan, 40% are depressed and sad. How much of this is related to social media and the cell phone and the total the always connected reality?
Yeah, that definitely plays a factor into what the kids are experiencing. Because of the interconnectivity, it means that there are unique groups that form and support each other and almost drive some of the depression and feelings. These days, what we experience with the kids, there's not a lot of atheists. What there are is a lot of new age spirituality, a lot of create your own meaning, a lot of be whoever you want to be. And then that's supported in the online space. It's supported via TikTok and Instagram. Those are the two main ones these days, is TikTok and Instagram. Snapchat also. But it's the kind of narrative that is pushed is that you're the one who forges your own meaning in life, and you can be whatever you want to be. So, for example, I can share a little story here. We were at one student group just 2 semesters ago, so a little less than a year ago. We were at a student group. And I was speaking to the middle schoolers, and we were talking about identity, because that's one of the topics that we cover. We lead discussions with the kids on questions that they're asking. And so one of them is identity. Who are you? And so we're discussing, like, who are you? And one of the kids, an 11-year-old girl, raises her hand, and she asks this question. She says, what about furries? Okay, now if you don't know what a furry is, it started out
I've never even heard of it.
Okay, it started out as kind of a sexual kink.
Yeah.
And it's where people believe or enjoy dressing up like animals, and then they would often have sex. But it's become almost like a little subcultural thing now, even amongst the youth, where you can pretend and even really believe that you're an animal. And she was asking because she has a friend who identifies as a furry. So she was asking about identity. Like, how do I talk to my friend who believes that she's a dog?
At 11 years old?
At 11 years old. So your question about social media, like gaining access to that kind of information at as young as 11 years old is largely due because of the access they have on the internet, which can be used for great good or potentially can have harmful effects.
So what are some of the topics that you as Y2Believe cover with the youth? Because really what I believe what you're doing is you're giving them a worldview, and you're actually challenging kind of the society's worldview and trying to say, hey, have you actually thought about where this heads and where this leads? So kind of give us an outline of what you guys share.
So we spend 6 to 8 weeks in any student group that we're in. Now we focus on the public schools. So we actually go into the public middle schools and high schools. We spend 6 to 8 weeks with the students. The first 2 weeks are there just to participate with whatever they usually do as a student group, whatever activity. That's largely to gain trust and get our faces in front of them and build those relationships. Then we spend 4 weeks doing discussion content. And so during that 4 weeks, the first week we cover identity, truth, and morality. So who are you? What is truth? Is there objective right and wrong? Is what we cover in the first week. The second week we cover does God exist? And we do topics relating to faith and science. So we talk about the origins of the universe. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why is there a universe at all? And then we talk about the origin of life. So where did life come from? How did we get here in the first place? And we draw out why we think God is the best explanation for those. Constantly asking them questions, drawing their questions out, and then responding. And then week 3, we discuss, is the Bible trustworthy? And so that topic we discuss, like, can you actually trust it? Here's an interesting thing about this. A lot of these students are really struggling because they think that the Bible is a book of myths and fairy tales. And this is what the week 3 is focusing on. I've had middle school and high school students ask me, can I actually trust the Bible? My history teacher, so the person in authority over them who's supposed to be teaching them this stuff, my history teacher says that it's a book of fables and that I shouldn't believe it. So is that true? Should I? And so we actually unpack all of the evidence that we have for the Bible being a reliable historical book. So we go through the manuscript evidence, we have over 5,700 early Greek manuscripts and fragments, and we have basically the entire New Testament. Even secular scholars say that the New Testament is reliable to a 99.8% degree of accuracy. 99.8%. And the other 0.2% that they're not quite sure of, it has no impact on the gospel message. It impacts nothing like that. Yeah. No doctrine, belief, or practice of Christianity. So that's week 3. And then week 4, we discuss the problem of evil and suffering. So how could there be a good God if there's all this evil in the world?
Yeah. That is a great question. Why is there evil and suffering if there's a God?
Yeah. So a lot of the students are interested in this because they've experienced great suffering. Especially in some of the inner city schools that we go in, they experience it almost daily. And so there's a few things that we draw out. So first, we have to even define what evil is. And classically in Christianity, starting really with St. Augustine, classically evil is understood to be a twisting or a corruption of the good. We use an example. It's like rust on a car. Like the car starts out with good metal, but then over time, rust can come in and attach itself and corrupt that metal. So without the metal, the rust couldn't exist, but the rust comes in and then twists it. And that's akin to what evil is. And so then we ask something like, can evil exist without the good? Well, the answer is no. Evil can't exist without the good. But good can exist without evil. Good can sustain on its own. And you can think of something like love, your love for a partner, for your marriage partner, let's say. That is a good love that could exist apart from any kind of evil. But then evil could be introduced in something like abuse, right? Like beating your spouse or depriving them of some kind of good, right? So it's a twisting of that good love that's
Wait a
meant
minute,
to be
you're not
in
supposed
a
to do that?
marriage relationship. Oh, no. no.
I just had to throw that in there since you're married to Pastor Dave's daughter.
That's true. I am. Yes, I'm very blessed.
Well, that's a good one to throw in there.
They've
That's a
only
good
been
one to
married
throw
8
in.
months, you know.
Oh, you guys only, this is a fresh marriage.
It is. We're 7 months in.
7
Yeah,
months.
7 months in.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are you celebrating this monthly?
Yeah. She likes to celebrate it monthly.
Oh, there you go. We made it a month. We made it a month.
Yeah,
we made it another
that's
month.
right.
That's good.
It's been easy. It's been good.
That's good. So I was going to ask if you had children. So
No.
not with Lydia.
If we had children, that would maybe be problematic at the moment.
That's right. That's right. No children. But you're getting up there in age.
28. Yeah.
So
I am. I'm getting old. I'm losing my hair.
You're gonna.
I don't have this beautiful mane.
You're gonna.
Well, you got this though.
Yeah, I do.
you
You have the beard. Yeah, you got the beard.
Which is good.
You're gonna have to have children soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to
Hopefully.
Give them a couple of years, you know.
We'd like to. We both come from really healthy families of 5. So she's the youngest of 5, and I'm the oldest of 5.
Yeah.
And so we actually love our families and want to have a decent sized family of our own.
Oh, that's good. I think I got married around 35 or 36 or something like that. I don't know. But you know what the thing was, I don't think we didn't really plan on having kids.
Yeah.
And then we had a kid. And it was like, "Oh man, now we're having a kid." Kind of ruined our plans. And then we had
Yeah.
and then it was like, well, we had one, so we need to have another one, and then we had another one. And then we waited 6 or 7 years and had another one. So now we have 3. Now we have a 10-month-old.
Wow.
He's been alive longer than you've been married.
Wow.
But the thing is that what you're saying is interesting. I wonder how you'll view this program when you have kids of your own. That'll be an interesting case study to come back and look at. But as a dad of young ones who are living, I think, in one of the toughest generations to grow up in.
Yeah.
Like I think when I grew up, in the 1980s, like that wasn't that bad of a time. You know, like we play outside and have fun. Like there wasn't, we weren't subject to all of the corruption. And when you were born,
Yeah,
I mean, they were still praying.
Yeah.
So
Well, no.
no,
No.
no,
Not in school.
prayer was out by the time you were kicking
yeah.
around.
Oh, yeah.
How old do you think he is?
I'm not that old.
This is Pastor Dave reminds me of Gandalf.
Oh, okay.
Gandalf.
Yeah.
Gandalf.
We get him for Christmas.
It's just
You know, the big staff.
Gandalf. I mean, what do you think, Ralph? Is there a little Gandalf in here?
No.
I'm gonna stay neutral on this.
Yeah.
I do like Gandalf, though.
You don't
He's
want
a
to. You
good
don't want to.
character.
You don't want to. You don't. You don't
I
want
don't
to
have
lose
the
your
beard, you know, if I
I
can.
would say age-wise around the table that
Yeah.
David is closer to Gandalf than you.
He also is the only one who has gray hair here. So
Yeah, well. Okay, getting back to Y2Believe.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just. It's an interesting thing. Like these are interesting statistics. These are interesting things that kids are going through. They're leaving. I wonder if, and this is just my own wondering, but I wonder if the 70 to 75% who are Christian or say they are Christian or grow up in a Christian home, I wonder how Christian the home really is. I'll give you an example. I have been a part of several church boards. I have been a part of multiple churches, and I have been in many pastors' homes, many board members of churches' homes. And the first time that I was ever in like a pastor's home or a board member of a pastor's home, those first experiences to me were very shocking. See, I grew up like in the world as part of the world. So I think when I was like 9 years old, I read the book The Godfather, right? This is like what was in my head before I was 10 years old. So, but it's interesting because you go into, I'll just say, the leaders of the church's home, and these are the people that you are supposed to look up to. These are the people who are supposed to be the strongest. And in the front living room, I'll never forget it, there's a wall that's, this big wall, maybe 30 feet long, 8 feet tall. And there's a TV in the center of it, and then it's completely filled with DVDs, thousands of DVDs. And I look at those DVDs, and there's, The Godfather or Pulp Fiction or, Marvel, whatever. Now, the thing about it is, that's very interesting. You look in the cupboard, there's a bottle of wine. You look in the fridge, maybe there's a couple of beers. I don't know. You look at the music on the playlist. It's Michael Jackson. These are experiences of leaders. Or, at the church, they have a gambling night that the pastors get together and with the team, and they play cards or poker. These are regular occurrences. These are real life experiences from the leaders of the churches. In my belief, in my mind, one of our family values is live clean, house, body, and mind. Now, should you or can you really be a Christian? Can you really be in tune with the Lord if all you're doing is putting the latest Yellowstone show, right? Which people love Yellowstone. I think it's a horrible show just because of how evil it is, right? I mean, it's nothing but swearing, sex, violence, killing. It's like one of the most popular shows there is, right? Horrible. So do you allow that into your house? And if you do allow that into your house, well, I'm not going to let the kids watch it, but I'm going to watch it. Then what do they see dad doing? Yeah. That's a daddy show.
What dad does,
So
gives permission
Sets
to
the
everybody.
culture.
all of these things, like you say they're Christians, my thought would be, I don't think they are.
Christian by name.
I don't think, I don't even think that a lot of the pastors that are pastors in our churches today are actually pastors. You know what I struggle with? This is what I struggle with. Why to believe? This is, I'll tell you my struggle. Going to church and finding a pastor that I can look up to. How do I look up to you? Are you better than me? You know, a pastor should be somebody, I believe, that's on a pedestal, that lives clean, that lives pure. They're not watching rated R movies. They're not watching TV shows. They're not putting the junk music into their head. They're living clean and pure. They're not drinking alcohol. I think alcohol is so bad. The alcohol, booze goes in, the devil comes in. I believe this. So if these things are happening at home, then those kids are already 4 steps down the road of not believing.
Yeah.
Right? Because what does alcohol do? It lowers our inhibitions. Right? It does. Like, hey, premarital sex. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to abstain. 2 beers later. Here we go. Why? Because it lowered our inhibitions. So I'm a big believer in, you know, this starts at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Christian families today, Christian families who go to church, people who I grew up with, people who say they love the Lord. And you might see their kids and you might say, name a Christian song that you love and like. They won't know it. They won't even have one.
Yeah.
These are Christian families. So I almost think like, and this isn't like a debate, but this is almost to think like, is it the corruption of media, whether it's social, whether it's television, whether it's this? Listen, I'll tell you a couple things that I don't like either. I hate superhero movies. I don't like superhero movies. You know what superhero movies remind me of? False gods.
Yeah.
Can Superman do everything in the world? He can fly, he can shoot lasers out of his eyes, he can blow cold air. So what do? We believe that he's a savior. We believe that Iron Man is a savior, right? Do I like Star Wars? Absolutely not. I think it's garbage. I don't like it from the fact of, you know what? The Force will be with you.
Yeah.
The Force is
Very
with you.
New Age,
No,
right?
man, the Force ain't with you. The God is with you, right? So these are very hard distinctions. These are very hard lines that as a parent that you have to begin to cross. Is alcohol in the home? What happens with alcohol? What does alcohol do? What does that lead to? Alcohol leads to marijuana. Marijuana leads to what? Mushrooms and cocaine, and you know it's got to.
You raise a really
Point
good point
to it.
Yeah.
So how are you living? How am I living?
Yeah, it's really important.
And these are the things that like I think of when I look at a pastor, when I look at someone who says they're going to lead. If you're going to lead my children, if you're going to lead to the next generation, I need to look at you, man, and I need to say, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like you. I want to aspire to be like you. There's not many pastors out there like that. I can think of a handful.
Yeah.
Luckily, Pastor Dave's a good pastor.
Railing
I
against
don't know.
pastors like I'm a pastor.
Pastor knows how I feel. There is no secret.
There is no secret.
Yeah.
There is no secret here.
And you know what? I love that because it's true. It's true. I mean, Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. I mean, he set himself up as an example. And so I do think that, there is a high calling, when you stand in a pulpit and when you teach that you're actually living it in your heart. So
Yeah, and I think that when you have kids, it's like there's another calling. Like
Yeah.
when we had kids, it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And
You're
I
supposed
was
to
like,
disciple them suddenly.
and I was like, oh my God, I got to change my life. That means I
Yeah.
can't go watch this movie. I can't watch this movie. I had thousands of CDs. And I'm going to tell you what I did was I took all the CDs out to the fire pit in the backyard and I was like, I'm going to burn. So I poured gasoline on all these CDs,
black smoke everywhere.
black smoke everywhere. But here's the thing: the plastic coagulated into like this burning thing, and it was going on for like days until I had a neighbor like, "This is killing us. What are you doing back there?" And they called the fire department on me and all this stuff. And so, but I was trying to purge that out because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've got kids." So what does that mean? That means no more Ozzy Osbourne. That means no more Dr. Dre. That means no more Michael Jackson. Even as innocent as it is, see, I grew up on the other side. I grew up rough. I grew up in and out of jail multiple times. I grew up, seeing this life from the other perspective, right? And so like my viewpoint of the life is like, okay, That's it. And that idea of I just want to be me, I just want to do my own thing, that changes when you have kids. And then when you're in ministry, it changes even more. And then if you're on a church board and you look at all the requirements to be on the church board, and then you go to the person's house that's on the church board, are they telling you the truth on there? What did I say when I joined? I said, listen, I think I break all these rules. I'm pretty sure, you know, like, I don't know that I can live up to this. I don't know if I can live up to this. I don't know that I can do that, because there's already moral corruption in my heart just from the way I grew up. The exposure to things never goes away. Yeah. You can try to fix that and you can get closer to God, but once it's there, it's hard to drift it out. So I love your mission. I love that you're getting with the kids. I love that you're in those inner city schools. Yeah. I love that question of, does God really exist? Yeah. I love that. Does God exist in pain? And I also love the fact that, like, you know, why is God here? Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. You, oh, sorry. Were you going to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you raise a good point in all what you were just saying about family too. Let me share two more statistics with you here. There's two things I think that flow from this. Barna did, these are recent Barna numbers, that 60% of lost youth consider Christians in their family a good resource for learning about Jesus. And 40% of lost youth consider any Christian they know as a good resource for learning more about Jesus. So the influence that you have as a believer to the kids around in your life is huge. They're going to trust you even more than they'll trust something like social media. They might see something on social media. That might be the first time they hear of it, but they're going to trust someone who they know is a Christian following Jesus in their lives first. Yeah. Almost always. They'll trust that person's experience, right? And it's really important that we're engaging kids now, not just because they're the next generation, but because they're being fed so many lies constantly. Who else is going to tell them the truth?
And to give them a filter to be able to see what's being fed to them, which I love about Y2Believe, is you give them strong foundations, and not just, you know, Christian view, but literally, I mean, as you begin to dissect, you know, this, there is the worldview is the most solid worldview that we have. Yeah. I mean, it's not you're just feeding them, you know, Christian thoughts. You are giving them rational, strong points of truths to be able to stand upon.
No, this is a really good point, and I think it ties into what you guys are both getting at, something here, which is the old methods of sharing Christianity and the gospel to the youth don't work anymore. Yeah. And a new approach and method is needed. And what we're doing is working. So it no longer works for the youth to just have like a youth Bible study. Yeah. Kids don't show up. Yeah. You can't rely on church attendance. Kids don't show up. And their parents don't make them show up anyway, because their parents usually aren't believers either. So the method has to change. So what we're doing is we're going to the students in these groups and we're saying, hey, I already know that you're depressed and suicidal and that you think there's nothing for you in this world. Let me show you that maybe in the person of Jesus you can find true meaning and purpose and satisfaction that you've been seeking, right?
I like that. I think that that's a good thing.
Just real quick, Y2Believe, what I love about this is that you guys are not just going into schools, but what you're actually doing is you're also creating what I call kind of an army of apologists. Yeah. And tell us, what is an apologist? Yeah. You know, what does that term mean? Yeah. And what are you doing as an organization? Because you're growing on both sides. You're creating more people like you, as well as you're influencing the youth.
Yeah, there's two levels. So first, apologetics, it comes from the Greek word apologia, and it means like a legal defense or a reasoned defense. So it's a reasonable defense of the Christian faith. It's showing that we have a reason for the hope within us, right? And so an apologist is just someone who is explaining Christianity and defending it against other claims, such as Christianity is false because the Bible is false, or something like that, right? So we have two levels here. So on the one level, which I kind of unpacked already, which is going into the schools and engaging the students and going into youth groups and engaging the students. At the other level, we're training college students. We call it near-peer mentorship. A kid is going to trust a college student more than they're going to trust somebody who's 50 or 60 or 70. They're going to speak the language
Thanks.
more, right? Yeah, sorry. Sorry
I'm done.
sorry
I'm
to
washed
break it
up.
to you.
No longer effective.
And the next thing is I still look like I could be attending college.
Yeah, so we're training college students, and we're actually partnering with colleges and universities right now to train their college students how to do this. So they get one-on-one training and mentorship, and then we teach them how to lead the discussions with the kids, and we send them out into the schools with their mentors to engage these students. And it's having a huge impact. Kids are coming to Christ. They're getting their questions answered. They're suddenly realizing that they don't have to throw their brains out the window to be a Christian, that actually it's not blind faith, it's a reasonable faith, and that not only are there good intellectual reasons, but there's good heart reasons. There's good existential reasons for becoming a Christian, for following Jesus, right? So it's happening at two levels. We're training an army of college students to go into all these student groups, but then we're equipping the Christian students in these schools and youth programs to be the missionaries and evangelists in their own friend groups and on their own campuses. And we're challenging the non-Christian students that maybe what they're seeking in life can be found in the person of Jesus. So it's happening at multiple levels. Yeah. And it's expanding rapidly, and God's using it to do a really good work in the kids.
I like this, and we're getting close to time here, and I want to bring this in for a landing. But I think that you've touched on something. As an early believer in my life, one of the things that I struggled with was, how do I tell somebody about God? How do I do that? And I was like, do you believe in God? Let me tell you about these scriptures. That was so hard to communicate. It's so stressful. It's so foreign. It puts so much stress on you, and then you don't share, and then you feel guilty. And what I found was that you just tell the story of what God did for you. Tell your own testimony, tell your own story, and that's easy. I can tell you that story every day. And everybody has a testimony, and everybody has a share. And you mentioned that tough times. How does a good God deliver in tough times? And I don't know if this is the right venue for this, and if you want to cut this out, we can, since this is all pre-recorded, but you recently lost your brother. And that's a tough thing. Yeah. I lost a brother. My older brother died. And it was the first time I had ever seen my dad cry, ever, in my whole life. I always thought he was a superhero, unbelievable, until that moment. And I just could not, the grief that I saw on my dad was unreal. And that story, you being here today, this fresh within the last month or so, that's a powerful story in and of itself. Sharing that with kids, because your brother was a believer, right?
Yeah, he was.
And so how does that make you feel? If we can say that on this show, how does that make you feel about God?
Yeah. Well, it's been a tough month losing my brother. And you're right, your testimony can open up the door to the conversation, where then questions are asked, and you can then show that Christianity provides more than just your own testimony. It provides meaning and value and purpose, and that it's intellectually satisfying and existentially satisfying. That's what we're showing the kids. Now, what does that mean when you're living through suffering? When you're living through brokenness? Because I am. Yeah, exactly. My whole family is. It's been a devastating season for us. I was very close with my brother. He was my best friend. And so it's not like a distant relative who passed away. But what we've learned in this process, and I'll make it brief because I know we have to close, so I won't go into depth. But in the moment of his death, the first few days, all of our theology and our beliefs about God were stripped away, and we were laid bare. And we discovered that we were standing on one thing. One thing was our foundation in it all, and that was the resurrection of Jesus. It was the resurrection of Jesus, which Paul says that is the whole of Christianity rests on the resurrection of Jesus,
Yeah.
right? Everything rests on that. And so what we realized is that rather than God being distant and hidden from us in our grief and in our suffering, he was imminently and immediately present. And he was present in the grief.
Yeah.
When we were experiencing grief, we were experiencing the heart of God that was broken over the state of the world, that is broken over the state of the world. That when we were grieving, that God was also grieving, because it wasn't supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
The world is broken and it's unjust and it's unfair. And what happens in the resurrection? Jesus comes in, he says, I have conquered sin and death, and I've risen from the grave to prove that I am the Messiah, the Son of God, the incarnate God, God with us, that I am the I am. And that in that I promise you that all things will be made new. It'll be set right. It will no longer be unjust and unfair and broken. I will reconcile the universe and all of your relationships. I will reconcile it to God and reconcile you to each other in the end. And he promises that. And so what it means then is that we realize that our grief, it's not God who caused the death of my brother. Rather, God is grieving with us at the brokenness that death was never supposed to happen. And then God does something about it. He comes into the world, repairs that brokenness, and promises a future kingdom where all will be made right. And so in the resurrection of Jesus, we have hope. So we can go to 1 Thessalonians 4:13 and 14 and agree with Paul when he says, we do not grieve as those who have no hope because of the resurrection of Jesus. So we really can. We
powerful.
grieve the loss of
powerful.
my brother, but
That's
we have
powerful.
hope in Jesus.
That's amazing.
You've seen some blessings come out of it. I mean, as hard as Malachi's passing was, which, there's no words for what you guys have been walking through. But Olivia, I don't know if you can share a little bit, but
Yeah, I can share very, in kind of a 30-second snippet, that what God has been doing through the death of my brother has been incredible. He's been bringing new life, using my brother's death to bring something good about. One of those is a young woman named Olivia, and she gave me permission to share this story, so I'm allowed to. But she was actually deeply in the New Age movement. She was leading seances and Reiki healings and energy readings and all these things, and she was at his memorial. And while she was there, she gave her life to Jesus through a crazy series of events. But what's been incredible to see is that where before she was filled with darkness and had this presence about her that was frankly evil, and she was a sweet girl, but suddenly and rapidly, God flipped her life upside down. Within 24 hours, she was a totally different person. She went from darkness to life, from death to life. And what she's doing now is she's going back into her New Age community, and she's sharing what Jesus has done. She told us, she said, my mind has never been clearer and my heart has never been lighter. I didn't know a love like this existed. She didn't even know that a love like the love that Jesus has for us could exist.
Wow.
And all of these things in her life, her mental illnesses, her anger, all of these things, her addiction to weed, all of this stuff was suddenly wiped away.
Wow.
As soon as she gave her life to Jesus. And now she's a witness, and she's going out and sharing, and she's equipped now. We've been discipling her, equipping her to share her faith in these friend groups. So it's just been incredible. That's just one. There's been 5 people who have given their lives to Jesus through his death. So yeah.
That's an amazing
joy and
story.
sorrow all mixed together. Lots of joy and sorrow.
It's very powerful. So what's the need for Y2Believe? Where do you guys need support, help? Where is that?
Yeah, so we're really only limited by the amount of resources we have. We rely on private donors entirely. And we don't have a lot of overhead. We try to keep it as little on the overhead as possible so that we can use all of the funds to funding our college apprentices to go into the schools and speak to these kids. So we have a website, www.y2believe.org, and it's the letter Y, the number 2, believe.org. And then you can follow us on social media at Y2Believe, the letter Y, the number 2. And
Y2Believe. I'm gonna check it out.
Yes.
Y2Believe. Are they on our page? They're on our page.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're gonna do something crazy here. We'll match up to $10,000
Awesome.
in giving. We'll put that out there for a month. What do you think?
Sure. Let's do it.
Thank you.
And so share it on your social, and as the money comes in, donate it through the mBridge.global site so that we can track it. So if you're out there and you want to give to this incredible cause, changing lives, mBridge.global is the site, and then just go to our causes.
Yep.
And then you'll look for Y2Believe, donate there, and we will match up to $10,000 given. And we'll put this out there for a month. We'll run this for 30 days. So give as much as you can. Dig deep. Give to this amazing cause, because life is tough.
Yeah.
And going in and helping our youth, helping our college students is an incredible thing. We're bringing this in for a close. Dave, Isaiah, any final thoughts?
I just love what you're doing. I love that you guys are going to where the need is. And I love that you're raising an army of apologists, people who know and have a reason for their faith and are solid in that. So, Isaiah, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me and for the generous contribution. That's very kind. And if anybody would like to find out more about us, please go to our website. Please follow our social media. You can also contact me personally at iparker@y2believe.org. That's my email, and I'd love to hear from you. And if you're interested more about the ministry, I'd be more than willing to share.
And if you leave those with Ralph, he can throw them into the chat. When we're on the show, he can throw them up on the screen when we're in the show. But this is awesome. Thanks for being vulnerable and going deep, because that doesn't always happen. Yeah. Listen, if you like the show, give it a like, give it a share, follow Y2Believe. That's Y2Believe, and check them out. Give to the amazing cause that's helping our youth recover from the atrocity of just what's happening over the last 5 years. I'm Dave Westcott. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere where it's social. We're hanging out. We're back here 9:15 a.m. every Tuesday, Pacific Standard Time. Drop a chat in the comments if you would. Share with us, talk to us, engage. We'd love to get your feedback. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations, so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.